Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, welcome to another special edition episode of Jack Rams Online on Mega Artist Media. My name is Jack Rams, and thank you to everyone who has subscribed, and I would like to encourage everyone and anyone who has not subscribed to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, and if you have subscribed, please like, comment, and share any material that you find on our platform. Today, we are at Library Gardens Auditorium, right in the center of Polokwane, Central Business District. And I am chilling with one of the pathfinders and pioneers in the music, media, film, television, and entertainment industry, Mr. Ernest.
Yes, sir.
TEMA. I must say that I'm honored to have you here because I've always watched you on the screen.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. And now it makes more sense why we are here today and why we are going to be talking about Khorong Film Festival and your involvement in the Khorong Film Festival. But for someone who doesn't know you, who's seeing you for the first time, how would you describe Ernest TEMA?
Okay. Ernest TEMA is a dreamer, you know, just somebody from a young age who's followed his dreams, you know. I was born Baragwanath, Diepkloof, Zone 6, to my mother, Esther Lulu TEMA. And yeah, I grew up in Diepkloof. But as I grew, obviously, you ask, you know, and obviously, like the holiday, you know, Rachaka, Raige, Radikale Marwal. You know, got the Christmas there with all my cousins and stuff, you know, but obviously, January Libuela, Joburg, you know. And yeah, in Joburg, you grow up. I mean, I was passionate about cricket at some point.
Sure.
Yeah, you know, I think my family thought I was going to be a cricket player. Yeah, you know, because I always had a cricket bat. Not really, you know. I mean, go Diepkloof, Negitsena primary, but higher primary Leboa.
Sure.
You know, and I remember a teacher by the name of Mr. Matlangu introduced us to Baker's mini cricket. At that time, there was a Baker's mini cricket. And, you know, Arfadi Bed, Didi Wicked, and, you know, and I felt like, no, I can do this, you know, and that's how I was introduced to cricket. So it's not a matter of, at that time I was introduced, I was in a white school, no.
Okay.
You know, I got introduced to Baker's mini cricket.
Sure.
Yeah, and from there on, I went to, Ostilgolu, where there was Norwich, which was my under 15, you know, and I remember the cricket and I played for the under 15 in Norwich, and yeah.
So would you say that you are a Limpopo boy?
Yes, proudly so, because I mean, as much as, you know, Batswadi Bakatora mo Limpopo, by Gauteng, by Lobereka, at the end of the day, you are from Limpopo.
Sure.
And the reasons why my family left Limpopo, I'm sure Madala was looking for a better life, or it was during the gold rush at Johannesburg. And he said, okay, go panda, get a boy. You know, I fitara, I'm shapaga standard, Diepkloof Zone 3, Mdala Aga, and he had kids. And then, I mean, brought up my grandmother, and they had kids, and they started a life there. But like I say, even growing up, they made sure, or Jarai failure, so boy, you know what I mean? And yeah, so I consider myself a proudly Limpopo boy.
So the reason I'm asking you this question, particularly about you being a Limpopo person,
yes,
even if like your full-time residence is not in the province,
yes,
it's because we have a lot of brains such as yours, a lot of intelligent, committed, dedicated entrepreneurs who are doing like major projects, and they are from this province, but they're not doing those projects in this province.
Yeah.
It's like this province does not offer them any opportunities or any platforms to do anything here. And most of them, you realize, or they've moved from the province.
Yes.
Yeah. So when your story is different because you didn't like necessarily grow up here.
Yeah.
So.
But I came back.
Yeah, it's home.
Yeah, I was invited to the festival because there's a film the panel liked and they decided to make it part of the film festival.
Sure.
I am involved in another film festival, Ibichwa Show Real Africa Film Festival. That's the one that I'm involved in. And Leona, it happens on Limpopo. But it goes back to what you are saying, you know. I'm doing all this amazing work in the film space, and I realized regions such as Limpopo deserve more platforms so that people can be exposed to filmmaking, and we ultimately need to start telling our own stories.
Yeah.
You know, and about to be honest, the same content. Yeah, Joburg. You know, not every story should be based in Joburg. Not every film should be based in Joburg. Yeah. There's so many stories. And not only in just Limpopo. Northern Cape, there's the Sun people there. You know, Western Cape, the colored community still needs to also tell its own story. Yeah. Eastern Cape as well. You know, and now I decided to come back home and, you know, create a platform for Limpopoans to tell their stories.
Yeah. So you collaborate with all these organizations or institutions that deal with film, television, production and stuff. What is your contribution? What do you bring to them?
No. I guess my expertise and my product, because I've been fortunate enough to produce a lot of content.
Sure.
Yeah, you know, like my filmography is very you know, intense. So that's what I bring to the table.
So what films are you bringing? What are you currently screening now?
Right now we are screening I'm Still in Love with Kwaito, which is a film I did in 2020. Yeah, you know, and the Khorom Film Festival people felt it's a perfect fit since this year they are doing the music edition of the film festival. So that's what we are screening today. I mean, at this moment at Khorom Film Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I've done other documentaries. Right now, I'm in the short film space. I'm doing short films. There's a short film called Load Shed, which is inspired by load shedding that we're experiencing as a country. Yeah. So I did a film about that.
Even our podcast was delayed simply because of
load shedding. Yeah, so
and we're gonna have to cut it short because
of load shedding.
Because of load shedding.
Yeah, so now I took, you know, like Baranga di lemon, it's a lemonade.
Sure.
So I took load shedding and I created a short film out of that.
Sure.
Yeah, and I recently did another film, Barke Serateledi, you know, because we all know somebody who's experienced, you know, sleep paralysis, and I decided, let me do a young film about it.
Yeah. Since I highlighted the problem that we're having with individuals like yourself in the province,
yes,
what has been your observation with things that are problematic in terms of advancing sports, arts and culture, in particular in the province, that you have identified and you felt like they are stumbling blocks and they're actually like not inspiring and motivating young people to actually participate and also just to be creative?
Yeah. I think the concept I is what's going to, or is what is currently stalling the province. You know, we need to start speaking in a we voice. Just because there's Khorom Film Festival doesn't mean Showreel Film Festival can work at Khorom Film Festival. Kunal Majita Dirang Limpopo Cinema, I think they are based around Tzaneen, if I'm not mistaken. You know, I was expecting to see such people here, but I'm not seeing them. You know what I mean? At least the Johnny Shugia Mona Udira Blowback Cinema. You know what I mean? So we need to start networking and collaborating as these platforms, as platform.
My platform?
Yes.
Jack Rams Online, Mega Artist Media.
Yes, Jack Rams Online right now is doing a podcast at Khorom Film Festival, and we can see the branding. So this is a step towards the right direction. So since we are a province that is also underserviced, unfortunately, we need to start pulling together in order to reach a common goal. Because there is no Limpopo Film Commission, unfortunately, to fund initiatives here. But if we come together and create some sort of consortium, and say and speak as one voice, or okay, we as Limpopo would like this to happen, right? We've got a podcast, we've got a film festival, we've got a guy who's got the resources such as screenings and stuff. Let's come together and at least annually let's come together and share ideas. I think that will help in establishing Limpopo as a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. When we started, I said that you're a pioneer and your contribution in the music industry is formidable, like it's recognized. It would be an injustice if I let you go and I don't ask you about Slaghuis.
Yes.
And I think
Slaghuis.
you are one of the people who started like documenting sessions.
Yes.
In the country, especially like when it came to the development of hip hop.
Yes.
And everyone else, when they look back, they see their superheroes and superstars.
Yep, as youngins.
As upcoming artists.
Yes.
So what was your initial idea when you started and with the other guys, whoever was involved at that particular time? What was your initial idea? Was it to create a documentary and film, or just to do a project where like artists just come and gather and then have a good time?
Yeah, I think the initiative Slaghuis was created out of a need. At the time, 1999, 2000, there used to be a club called Jozi Lee Club. Right, Lee Club was a small street there next to KFC, and that's where hip hop guys would gather every Saturday. Like it was a platform out of this world, right? But in 2001, right, and there was no platform for bomb rapper to gather, right? And then me and my friends got deep proof. I remember we used to chill outside my house. Sister Raga Joyce Fitara, no, Agikushi Tabel now, Letotu Amatequani, and hack.
Sure.
Just like a couple of houses away from Dakumting, there was like Skanga, right? And guys, space.
Yeah, and it looked like a Skanga.
Yeah, Ratlina Skanga. Yeah, Ratlina Skanga. From Skanga, fortunately, a couple of months later, one of our friends, DJ Chicken, Ufeto graduator, sound engineering Koskele, and he was celebrating his 21st birthday. His parents bought him a sound system, right? And then we were like, refetso tlina skanga, ntango na le sound system, the session adisa diragala Jozi, let's create a platform. And we called it Black Sunday in the beginning. And then a redira in collaboration with Machita Zone 1. Black Sunday, unfortunately, we had a fallout with the guys by Zone 1, but yeah, Black Sunday claiming it's their own. And in hip hop, what's about beef, and a beefy choppy guy, Slaghuis.
Sure.
Ratoma Rena Raribichwa Slaghuis. Yasuga from there. And then ultimately, we also realized that there are not enough platforms in townships that cater for artistic expression. Every time you want to creatively express yourself, Sanzuna Mele takes uye Jozi. And we decided, no, we'll do it Honamo Lokshini, and we started Slaghuis.
No repawen?
Yeah.
Oh, na le project.
No, born. I mean, I released a mixtape with Hype Magazine. If you remember Hype Magazine,
when it started,
Nature Gadi CD. Yes, Hype 25.
Sure.
I've got a project. Slaghuis is a Sefrichi.
Is it digital though now? Can we go back and listen
a lot
to
of
it?
people ask, that compilation. I was actually showing one of the guys in the office a copy.
Sure.
Last week. This is a collector's item. I don't think it's available digital. But yeah, I've got some music that I released there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Still on Slaghuis.
Yes.
And a lot of people know ProKid as one person who really made like Slaghuis very popular, because even when he was doing his interviews, he was talking about where he comes from, and he always says Slaghuis.
Yes.
That's where he gained his popularity, and I would imagine maybe that's one of your biggest highlight of the project. What are some of the highlights that you really remember vividly that were like outstanding from Slaghuis? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, starting with the Anna Linda, Pro. I mean, Pro Rejwalena from Lee Club, right? And Lee Club una repakas core. Very fluent repakas core. And when we move this platform, and now guys start expressing themselves in what we call Kasi rap. Right, we start using languages that people can identify with. And ProKid, I remember for the first time, his first verse. His first vernacular verse was actually Fede Fokol. He's got a song. Fede Fokol, Mihla Malangas Pushi Smogol.
Sure.
Noma Bangazenza Ngono Ntwani Sam so called. Right? He came, yo, I think after that day, Slaghuis, and he performed his first vernacular verse, something shifted in the universe. Because after that day, the following Sunday, Slaghuis, people came in numbers to hear hip hop sounding in its most purest form, Yakukazi. And he was doing punchlines about things that people would ask themselves, one punchline that comes to mind, it's like, yo, that metaphor on its own, you know what I mean? And then after that, ProKid also realized, the people I'm supposed to be speaking to, Shiba, the very same people, and he can relate. That's who I should be addressing. And after that, he never looked back. He stopped rapping in English. His last song, English, was Soweto. After that, ProKid shifted his focus and decided to rap in Vernac. And I think even South African hip hop from that point turned. Because even the guys who started coming to Slaghuis were no longer rappers. Nele majita gasi fela. Nele bomo lady by Tixi Majita ablomango koning bama dice. Like the music started now representing an ordinary person wakasi. And that for me became a highlight. And just to also mention Upro, he's a guy who, you know, my first computer I got through him. You know, he once he was gaining popularity and he just signed to, I think it was before he signed to Gallo. Willa Tola gig go Castlelight. Castlelight was rebranding, right? But a prom fit so freestyle I mara khopela re tholle majita ithunyana le tlo betlela go staging. Wa ra boya Slaghuis a re koleka. I remember it was me, Deja, Lile, why? Ra fo easy ra fitla ra betlela. First time getting a paid gig. Ga patalwa mo le 5,000. Chicken atola 5,000, Deja 5,000. And I remember that 5,000 I bought my first computer. And then my life changed because that computer opened me up to another world.
Sure.
You know, beat making, film making, editing, and all that stuff. So I always, you know, hold a special place for ProKid in my heart because, you know, Lynn, I feel he also played a part in changing my life through that gig and getting that 5,000 and buying my first computer.
Yeah. Would you also say that it was at that moment South African hip hop music and music in general changed?
Yeah,
when
definitely.
Pro came into the mainstream.
Definitely. I mean, I've done 2 documentaries on ProKid. You know, I did the Kasi Rap Bible, Tanki San. And even there, the guys we interviewed tell you, after this guy came into the mainstream, people started gravitating towards hip-hop. Pella, you must remember, hip-hop has always been seen as a foreign concept.
Asimo States.
Yes, Asimo States.
Sure.
All right? So, and Thomas Slaghuis, we used to get into a lot of fights with the Kwaito guys and Emma Panzula. Because before Slaghuis, we were actually harassed. How fit I go to the baggy pants, the
Maniga.
hey, yo. And sometimes they would even rob us, I'll be honest. And that's why I even tell these guys, but I'm proudly kologishi, but daile miriri. If it wasn't for us, because we had to get into physical fights. We had to get into physical fights.
Sure.
And at that time, cherry,
sure.
So you know, twanginya. The cherry chabona di das Slaghuis. Slaghuis fela, next thing there were fights. But the guys ultimately got it. And that's why I'm saying even ProKid deciding to rap Vernac changed the landscape. Because those very same guys we were fighting, next week they were there to see this guy rap in township slang, something they've never heard before. And I mean, Pro had a song, Unga Pelu Moya San. You get what I mean? And he came up with these songs that now spoke to these guys we were against. And like Gecho, everything changed from then on.
Right. And this is part of the content that you have produced in your films.
Yes.
Forgive me, I forgot the name. I was watching one of the films and it spoke particularly about language.
Yes.
That also even radio stations, when you provide them with vernacular music, they don't really appreciate it as much. If it sounds like authentic, if it sounds African, radio station would rather prefer to play international music than to play local music. Other
Yes.
artists that you also interviewed on the documentary or the film,
Yes.
they were also talking about issues, the 90% local content,
Yes.
and how it was approached and abruptly terminated before it could reach its potential.
Yes.
Maybe because of how it was introduced as well.
Yeah.
So what is your thing with the language in terms of representation and in terms of the mainstream and commercialization of appreciating our language and broadening our reach in terms of our culture and traditions and heritage?
Yeah. Now Robulela Niti Spedi and our ethnic languages should be first, right? And then English after. But unfortunately, more South Africa, we've done it the other way around, right? People push for their children to learn English first, and then Spedi and their ethnic languages is a secondary consideration, right? And we were watching a film yesterday, My Culture, My Music. Very moving film. And the guys there spoke and answered what you are saying, right? At the end of the day, if we lose ourselves, what else do we have to offer to the world? And another thing, now I'm fortunate enough to have traveled. I've worked in East Africa. I've been to Tanzania and Kenya. I've worked in Europe. I've been to the Netherlands, right, twice. And when you get to the Netherlands and you get there and you play them a rapper from South Africa or Repangas Khoa, they don't gravitate towards that. They don't. They tell you like, this guy sounds like
everybody else.
Yeah, everybody else.
Yeah.
How do you sound? How do you guys sound? So we need to start embracing who we are, right? And I was saying this even yesterday during the film festival. You look at what the Amapiano guys are doing. They are themselves, and they didn't change anything about themselves. They represented themselves, and look at how the world is gravitating towards that. Like, we always see videos of guys from abroad gravitating towards this music. I mean, Amapiano had a festival in the UK, my brother, Ibichwa Amafest. Sold out.
They had
festival.
main stage.
Yes. There's a festival in Portugal, Ibichwa Afro something. The guys sold out a Portuguese festival. You know, when you see behind the scenes, they come across Davido Lebo, WizKid backstage, and you can see the Africanicity that we are supposed to be representing to the world. Those guys back in Nigeria sound nothing like guys from America. They've got their own thing, Ibichwa Afrobeats, and the world is gravitating towards that. Now South Africa has got its own sound, Ibichwa Amapiano. The world is gravitating towards that. So why would I, as Enzo, want to come and be on some, yo man, you know what I'm saying, like I'm out here. Like, no, the world does not want to hear that. Wow.
Yeah.
Sharp, we can speak English, we can communicate English, it's a form of communication. But at the end of the day, we have to express who we are and represent who we are to the world, and the world will gladly welcome us with both hands.
And through music, which is a powerful mechanism to transport our heritage to the world, right?
Yes.
What's your relationship with Kwaito? Because you came up as if you are a rapper and you are into hip hop.
Yes.
What's your relationship with Kwaito?
Kwaito raised me.
Sure.
Yes. The first song I gravitated towards was Kwaito. 1993, Mdu released a song called Tsiki Tsiki Yo. Actually, he didn't even release it. It went viral. But in those terms that back then, Mdu na fetso recorded Tsiki Tsiki. One of his friends was a taxi driver. People started liking it by pirate. And then we had Tsiki Tsiki. Right? So I grew up on that. Bo Arthur. Bo Alaska, Speaker, Trumpis, those are guys that raised me. And then in 1999, I fortunately and unfortunately left Soweto and I was moved to the East End, and I was taken to a multiracial school. And in a multiracial school, you get exposed to a whole new world. That's how I get introduced to hip hop.
Sure.
Right? You become in the hip hop space, and in the hip hop space, they look down on Kwaito. And to fit in, I started also looking down on Kwaito until I got into the film space, and I also started questioning myself, and I was like, no, but guys, I am Kwaito, and I am still in love with Kwaito. Sharp hip hop, it played a role, but at the end of the day, Kwaito is what I should be actually advocating for. Like right now, there's a brother of mine, Osmic, he's doing a South African hip hop museum. And I was actually having a chat with him. Like, it's a good thing that there's an SA hip hop museum, but if it was me, I would have done a Kwaito museum first.
Sure.
Because a SA hip hop museum does not really represent South Africa.
Yeah, because we were having a conversation about most of the Mapiano artists.
Yes.
And we were saying that most of Mapiano artists were aspiring Kwaito artists.
Yes.
Unfortunately, at the time they wanted to get into the music, Kwaito was slowly fading, and it was no longer like really making that much of a noise. And
Yes.
new genres were coming. We had your drum now, like coming in hard and very strong.
Yes.
And like everybody just fell back. And some of them, they just went into hip hop.
Yes.
They started like falling into hip hop and rapping in English, right? But then now the introduction, because I want to draw the point that you made, that like Mapiano is so big and it represents us as a nation, as a country, as South Africans. Would you agree that most of the aspiring Kwaito artists are majority of what is Mapiano artists now today?
Definitely. Kwaito is the umbrella, right? Kwaito is that sound. You know, when you are at a music festival and you are looking the other way and you hear that groove, and you look back and you're like, that sounds South African. You know that thing, that sounds like youth culture from South Africa. That's called Kwaito. So you look at Afropop, Yabo Mafigizolo, they also have that groove that identifies themselves with South Africa.
Sure.
So they borrow from Kwaito, right? You look at Amapiano, that bass, man, it's an
Even the lyrics.
yes,
the
it brings you back to this core, this umbrella. And this umbrella is called Kwaito. Because those guys, what they did in the 90s, yes, those guys
And it worked,
because they actually embedded the Kwaito DNA in us.
Because I listen to most of the Amapiano artist lyrics.
Yeah.
The interpolation of their instrumentation.
Yes.
And also the sampling of lyrics and the catchphrases. I was listening to Kabza De Small's, I forgot the album, but I think it's the third album or something.
Yeah.
And I listened to Daliwonga's lyrics.
Yes.
And I could refer, or this is Mawili's reference.
Yes.
This is Mdu's reference. Yeah.
Yes, and you look at, for example, a song like Loch.
Yeah.
Loch, ne? Ya Scorpion Kings. You go back into Kwaito's archives, TKZ and Penny, Shibobo.
Yeah.
Right? Steve Lekwelea and Mzambi. Ujezi number 10. Right? And now, years later, guys come out and they do a song in celebration of a soccer star. That is Kwaito. That's what the Kwaito guys were doing 20 years back. So it goes back to what I'm saying. It's tapping into the source.
Sure.
You know, this thing that grounds us as youth culture in South Africa, which is Kwaito, which is embedded in our DNA.
Yeah. I was also listening to Sir Trill's singing. And then he says, yes. And I'm like,
Mapaput.
Mapaput.
Yeah.
This is like Mapaput.
Even
like,
the beat.
The whole of it.
Yes.
When you know your music, you know this is Mapaput.
This is Mapaput. So that is Kwaito. And that's why we say Kwaito will never die.
Sure.
It just takes many forms and changes its sounds, but it's still Kwaito. And yesterday I also made an example. Hip hop in America does the same thing, right? In the 90s, we were listening to Bokiares One with their boom bap, right? And then after that, the West Coast came in with G-Funk, and that was the era.
Sure.
Yabo Snoop, Libo Tupac. Right? But they didn't change it and call it something else. No, Godi Awards, it's still under the umbrella of hip hop. It's just there's boom bap from the East Coast Yabo KRS One, there's G-Funk from the West Coast Yabo Tupac and Snoop Dogg. And then after that, trap music from the Dirty South came, right? And then it was trap. And now emo rap came with Bo Drake, right? And now it's back to conscious rap with Bo Kendrick. All these guys have got these different tags, right? Boom bap, hardcore, trap, emo rap and all, but it's an umbrella under hip hop. People fit go the Grammys. Awari Drake best winner for emo rap, no. Or Kendrick best winner for conscious rap, no. Or Tupac best winner for no. They put them all under one umbrella as hip hop. But Runamo South Africa, our problem is we want to separate things, and which actually, whereas it could all be under one umbrella as Kwaito. And then we've got Babes Okumo representing the Qom sound. We've got Setril representing the Amapiano sound. We've got Zola representing the Kwaito hardcore sound. We've got ProKid representing the Kasi rap sound. But it's all under Kwaito.
Yeah. So, in all of these things, I know I asked you in the beginning, why is it difficult for us to maintain the film and television in the province? What would you say on a bigger scale, in terms of corporate and government contribution can happen to keep projects like Khoron Film Festival sustainable in the province? What some of the ideas, maybe even during your workshop, that you will be sharing with the aspiring film producers and also like students who will be attending? Like the biggest question is, okay, we can start. Like now we have started this podcast.
Yes.
The question is, how is it going to be sustainable? How are you going to maintain it going forward?
Yeah. Warali Shole asked the same question yesterday. I want sustainability, or how do we sustain? And it goes back to investment. I want us reinvesting in the arts and culture. Unfortunately, because it's still a baby, we can't afford to be taking huge salaries while it's still at this stage. So that means when we do get that 300,000 from the NFVF, we can't spend all of it. We have to at least cut corners, ask for favors wherever we can, so that we spend 150. The other 150 shalang, let's invest it for the next Khoron Film Festival, because we don't know where it's going to come from the next year. NFVF can turn you down. The Department of Arts and Culture can turn you down. But because it has started, it has to continue. And the nice thing about continuing as well, without involving NFVF, it shows that you can sustain yourself. So even when we go back for the third edition of the Khoron Film Festival, like, hey, the first one we were there. Hey, the second one happened without us. No, these guys are serious and they clearly understand the business. Let's give them more funding, right? But we also need to go back to what I was saying, speak as one. I think it's long overdue that Limpopo should have a film commission. But we just need to consolidate ourselves as these different organizations and select the right people to represent us and speak in one voice as Limpopo. And hopefully we get people who are not hungry for kickbacks and greedy and arrogant, because that's another problem with this country. You know, we've got young people who've got brilliant ideas, right? And then we've got old people with access to funding, and there's this disconnect between the two. When ENZO hired Ailo presented to the arts and culture, and then arts and culture is supposed to accept that proposal from Silo to say, yes, guys, here's there seems to be this disconnect, or there seems to be always wanting to ask ourselves, what's in it for us? And that culture, unfortunately, is what is also destroying South Africa. It has become a culture of, I don't care how ENZO is talented. If I'm not getting a 5% or a 10% from him, I'm not approving this proposal. Corruption. That's unfortunately
manipulation.
And unfortunately,
nepotism.
It's a lot. And it's something, unfortunately, that South Africa needs to deal with before it's too late. And I feel it's also something that has been holding us back for a very long time. Young people in Limpopo have got brilliant ideas. right? And they are in one of the most fertile provinces in South Africa. Limpopo is literally on the verge, and you can see it.
I agree.
Yes, Limpopo is literally on the verge. Limpopo, trust you me, is going to be the next big hub, arts and culture in South Africa. It just needs the right nurturing, the right leadership, because also that's another problem with South Africa. The people with the ideas are not where they're supposed to be, and the people with the money are in the wrong positions. It's this disconnect. And if we can get it right, my brother, I'm telling you, Limpopo is going far.
I just like the point that you mentioned, and I would like to emphasize on it, especially creating a portfolio and building on what you had and saving on the little funding that you got.
Yes.
Because that's where more funding comes in.
Yes.
And that's where also the issue, there's water still, you can bring, it's fine. Yeah, no, thank you.
All
it's
right.
a podcast, we'll edit. Yeah. So as I was saying, the issue of creating a portfolio, young people creating portfolio and documenting what they are doing.
Yes.
I think that's where my interest is, because I know if you document and you create a portfolio, you're eventually going to attract sponsors, investors, more funding and stuff like that. And I've seen you do it.
Yes.
That's why I want to ask you, what are the plans? I don't know if it still exists. Slaghuis TV.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the plans with that? What are you doing? Because I've seen you document, build until where you are now. You are like big into films.
Yeah.
So what's happening? Because it's on YouTube, right?
Slaghuis TV.
Yeah.
It used to be.
It used to be.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's how I knew about it anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to resign from Slaghuis, after 15 years of starting this baby, And that's another thing young people need to learn. When you start something with your friends, it does not necessarily mean that you all have the same vision. And you need to also guard your intellectual property, right? When you've got an idea, or I'm starting the show Real Africa Film Festival, register it first as yourself. And then go to your friends and propose some sort of arrangement with them. Or wantusha or kiaupata. If mutunyaka nyugu with a plan, or okay, wena kitonya gon DJ urunyaga guy 500 sharp. Ofecho DJ get offer 500 yagago, and then we go our separate ways, but we are still friends and get sharp. And then you do that. The one mistake we did, or I did with Slaghuis, is I had this brilliant idea called Slaghuis, and I was around my friends, and then we started this thing. And the thing about friends is silo unale mpinchagare leena ya go tswa seshego le shole le eno na le mpinchagare ya go tswa Vembe, right? Next week Sunday er dira show silo thagela le mpinchela ba re kukisha speaker, right? Mutakola kukileng speaker. The following Sunday he feels like now cause ukukile speaker, he's part of Slaghuis and he's entitled to a share.
Sure.
True story, right? He's entitled to a share. That other guy who came that last week Sunday, Wakuchwa Vembe, Chomi was there helping the DJ carry the CDJ right after the show, and went there. And after that, we share beers, we talk. Yes. After 3 months, he sponsored the abonor. Okay, Ntoya ba fito re bulela lema. Kiyo ENZO sharp. ENZO ba mo fe 100 rand. ENZO ya go DJ, o ya go selo, ya go shole ba feti ba kentsha 100 rand a re spaneng. Ya tla da NVF e re fa dikipa eng. Mthako le na tlile selo that following week. Sa le sheba ka site le leng orao. Le na le thotse nyugo from NVF a la re botsa. Ole wa Vembe le no bona dinepe go social media ke ntwa rena like wara ke ntwa lena byang o bo se go ithoma right again. So those are the problems I encountered with Slaghuis, where a lot of guys felt entitled, right? And now I'm starting to do documentaries, and my name is coming up. They feel entitled
as
to those various they feel entitled to even you as ENERST. Or why are you doing a documentary and le mention Slaghuis? Why are you doing a documentary and Ronald Dinepe tsa ko Slaghuis? No, this is our documentary. Like wara, you've never even touched the camera in your life, but you want to feel entitled to something that is not even, deserving to you. So those are some of the things where I felt or I had to distance myself from the movement. Hey, it was a very...
That's unfortunate because one thing
there's actually a documentary on YouTube. People can search it. ENERST Slaghuis Joint Elements.
Sure.
Where I literally resign on camera.
Sure, I think I saw it. And also the other thing that inspired me was like when I saw you like building the studios, like the studios that you were using, I think it was red and black. And I was like, hey, Majita was spana, Ju.
Yeah, no, mfethu rapusha raspana, but it also goes back to that thing, watch how you involve your friends when it comes to business. Yeah. Because we were friends.
Yeah, but the thing is,
but when it came to business, I know, and that's the thing. Right? At the end of the day, when I got tolang sanzo ospana 9 to 5. Focus ya go say 9 to 5. One to Lena might have a passion in painting, right? What willow painter and then Isheban. Right? Kena okay dirandi call eba fetu zwagalang kena ke bolelang le media kena ke bolelang le bo mama Majita ona ba tlo fitla sontaga gona le dibiri gona le bana gona le di groupie. That's all they care about. The minute thanks for coming batho ba ikela mo ba yang gona, but the minute sponsors start coming, those very same people are like, yeah, no ankere wa tsebo re ke ntwa re nai. So that's what I went through, and it got to a point where it was starting to become unhealthy. It got to a point where we were starting to even get into physical fights. Where now people raswarana molega di washing, and I decided no, it's best if
yeah, you know why I'm pushing you to that point is because I wanted you to demonstrate that, even though we don't know necessarily, or maybe they might have shared their side of the story, so that we can collaborate the story and so it corroborates whatever the case may be. But the point that you are raising is very crucial because it happens in most organizations. And I've always noticed that the face of the organization is always the guy who's putting in the work and who's making sure that there is revenue coming in. But the problem is when the revenue comes in, everyone deserves an equal share, which
is unfair.
It's unfair.
Yes.
I want to put it out there because I know this is the kind of conversations that Majita, they are not having.
Yes.
You understand? Because if I organize a deal, on the deal, I can't give you 50%.
Yes. And that's why you need to be transparent with your starting partners, shareholders, friends, whatever. Or do you want something here? Most people will take the money.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. In the future, or if there needs to be a memorandum of understanding or an agreement or a contract, sign that contract, have it laid out in the beginning before this baby grows. Because once the baby grows, my brother, trust me, hell shall be let loose. Right. Majita, I remember when I got invited to the World Social Forum in Kenya, because people are looking like, oh, should they see the face? Or what? People will approach me like, hey, we like the work you do. There's an opportunity for a young person to go represent South Africa in Kenya at the World Social Forum. Would you be interested? Of course I'm interested.
Yeah.
Oh, Majita, what Kenya? Like, what?
Yeah. If I get invited to go to Cape Town, I'm going alone.
So you need to. Unfortunately, you need.
I'm going alone.
Yeah, and you should. Sure. You should. You need to separate friendship and business, and unfortunately, it happens a lot, especially within the arts space as well. We've seen many groups, even music groups, break up.
That's where I want us to get to.
Yes, we've seen many record companies tear into pieces because of that. Guys didn't separate the business and the friendship.
Talking about partnership agreements, memorandum of understanding, starting business directorship, and all of these things, contracts.
Yes.
Tell me, my brother, the music industry has been existing for hundreds of years.
Yes.
Why do artists still get it wrong? I mean, like we have the situation with two major biggest record labels, independent record labels, Ambitious and Okay, Mawala Noise is dead.
Yes.
They closed that. We have another one is open mic.
Yes.
Artists, every time they go on social media to complain about record labels, where do you think artists get it wrong?
Laziness. Artists are lazy. Artists are the biggest babies, right? That want to be mothered. Like, Warra, you are 24 years old, you still want to be mothered. Yeah? Now, I've been approached by several artists. ENZO or manage. I tell them straight, no. Because I've worked with artists almost, most of my career.
Sure.
Even starting with Slaghuis.
Sure.
They are lazy, they want to be mothered, and they are very selfish as well, the artist. You can groom him, tushang. Once ambitious kokota, ulebala le ka wena mthole. Sale ko. Phone the next day, "Eh warra, itamoler to dira podcast." Yeah, talk to my management. Like warra, ke na mos ne go choose last go fanyuka ya re, you get what I mean? Because currently in 2023, there is no excuse for an artist to be exploited. All the information you need is on the internet. But because they are lazy and they don't want to invest in themselves, that's why they constantly get screwed over. Because all you have to do is recording contract on Google. It's going to show you all the contracts. You can even go as far as saying, how do I avoid getting screwed in a contract? It's going to show you multiple documents. You click there, you read it. Right? Dinga was doing a workshop and he was talking about music licensing, music signing record deals. And my advice to every artist is create your own company, sign yourself to yourself, right? And make sure you pay for all your studio recording sessions because that way you own the masters.
Khalid and Nesvar, that's major.
Yes, and then when major key. When Ambitious comes, you want to sign me, it's fine. But you must know the music belongs to ENERST, TEMA, PTY. And ke company registered for the music. But we can get into a contract.
Distribution licensing.
They can license it from ENERST, TEMA, PTY.
Sure.
In chamber fetu sharp. Yeah. 70 30. I'm stress.
I know we could get into intricate details about contracts and like agreements between artists, but I think you summed it up nicely in the beginning when you said like artists are lazy, because I always interact with a lot of artists and sometimes you just want to be lenient and try to help people and assist them and engage them and entertain and listen to their story. But at the end of the day, when you summarize the whole thing, you're like, this idiot is lazy.
Lazy, these guys. Lazy, entitled, want to be mothered, and selfish at the same time.
Joe, you don't have a copy of your contract. Why?
I'm fine. I can go on. Even some of the artists that we discovered, Slaghuis, some of them, we advised them. But the guy still goes on and, signs a shitty contract and you're like, my brother.
Yeah.
Like, really, did you really go ahead and sign this contract? And that's another thing. The days of walking around like, I'm a signed artist are over. There's nothing glamorous about being a signed artist. There's nothing. Because guys have proven that you can do this yourself.
Enjoy the loan, only the advance.
Register a company, it costs 175.
Sure.
That goes CIPC, you can do everything online. After that, the music you record, you register it under your own company. And then you keep on recording every trainer you do. Liko samrokwa, heba check the code, it belongs to ENERST, TEMA, PTY. Sharp. Heba fita ba ambitious, by universal, you're like, no problem, guys, but you must understand the music is signed under ENERST, TEMA, PTY. Leba cheba mbuka, that invoice ele letaipatala under ENERST, TEMA, PTY.
Sure.
And you actually separate yourself also from yourself. So there's the business and there's the person. So whether Ambitious wants to screw you over, you're like, I'm not stressing. Music must belongs to ENERST, TEMA, PTY. When KFC pays like it paid for Imalening, and that guy who Dubai didn't see a cent. I mean, he could have just gone legally and said, but the song belongs to
you don't own Dubai, but you own Dubai Enterprises.
And that's why these guys need to start really taking their craft seriously because it's getting tiring. And I know more social media who push mob mentality. You know, they'll want to attack the record companies. Yeah, ambitious. And it'll trend up for 5 days. After that, people don't care. They don't give a F. So unless the artist is really serious about their craft, their career, and they want to turn this into something they can put bread on the table, they need to start taking themselves serious.
So let's talk about the challenges that you are encountering in terms of film and television production and distributing your content to mainstream platforms and broadcasters.
Yeah.
And we can talk Showmax, Netflix, SABC, ETV, and the likes. Have you tried? What are some of the challenges? Are you winning? Are you giving up when you are like,
no, there's no giving up.
Because people, when they do like for instance, some of us when we leave radio broadcasting, we're like, I'm gonna start my online and I'm gonna start a podcast.
No, the challenge is real, my brother. I won't lie. The challenge is real, but you persevere, right? Fortunately, so far, SABC has been a platform that is responding positively. And SABC is the biggest channel in the land. So that at least comforts me. Netflix, Nsokodisa, Showmax, Nsokodisa, Mzansi Magic, ETV. As long as it'll go SABC, it's going to reach the intended destination.
Sure.
Because that's another thing. SABC is for the people.
And it's
people,
free.
Yes, and people can want to brag about being on Netflix. But my brother, not everyone can afford the internet. And people also forget that we are living in South Africa where I believe only 7 or 10% of the population is on Twitter.
Sure.
Right? Or on Facebook, on social media. Imagine the other 90%. How are they getting their information? You want to know how? Through SABC. Right? So people are busy. Yeah, I want to get on Netflix, bro. I want to get on. Only 500,000 people are going to watch your show.
Yeah.
Whereas my show, I asked for the numbers from SABC with regards to the slate that we had. My brother. When I saw the numbers, I was blown away. And I was like, there's no way I would have reached these numbers online. No way.
Yeah, because people misinterpret their numbers online.
Yes, they think...
We were talking about like these digital platforms like YouTube and stuff like that, ne? And we were like breaking down the numbers nicely.
Yes.
And when you break down the numbers, you're like, hey man, I have 100,000 views, right? On an episode. But these views are people from Cape Town.
Yep. And unfortunately as well, the monetization of content on YouTube, they're still paying us shitty rates.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I also realized earlier on. Because before I got into TV, I wanted to revolt against the system. I had a platform called where'sthebeef.co.za,
sure,
where we were going online. But 6 months after starting the company in 2015, I was like, gents, we're doing this the wrong way. They were like, what do you mean? I'm like, we're doing this the wrong way. Online. Let's go TV. And the guys were like, no, ENZO, man. And that's why we started the company, to revolt against the system, the mainstream. I was like, we're doing this the wrong way. Let's go the team. It's not feasible.
It's not viable.
Yes.
Like I'm saying about the numbers, you're like, why am I getting so many views from Cape Town? And you realize you're in Cape Town, there's free Wi-Fi even on the streets. You
know what I mean? And
you are not reaching a wider audience countrywide.
And ultimately, those views, in terms of the monetization that you get, you will end up even being depressed.
Sure.
Guys are busy posting with pictures, getting plaques from these streaming platforms, Spotify, but when you really look at how much they're getting, you will cry.
And also online you can manipulate online. We've
seen it. There's streaming farms. You get what I mean? Can get those. You can buy numbers. So as much as there's guys that are doing a great job, and you can see that there's hope within the online space, there's potential for us to grow within the online space. You know what I mean? Shout out to the podcast and chill. I think they've led the way in showing us good. It is possible. You can actually succeed and build through this thing. But also we need to realize and also check, where are we as a country? Unfortunately, we are not a first world country. You know what I mean? Yes, we are still in South Africa.
Sure.
Where internet is still a privilege to many. We will get there over time, but currently you need to see how you move.
Yeah, because In reality, when you check also, I've also realized that there's a conversation that is like people are really like hyping it up, and especially podcasters, people who are on the digital spaces, they're saying things like radio is dying, TV is dying.
Did you see DJ Smooth last week? He was like he would take his job back, go SABC.
Yeah, I read an article about that. Yeah.
He said that last week.
Yeah.
Or I would take my job back, go SABC. What does that tell you? Hey, more the online space. You know, as much as he's got that Hustlers podcast, he's got that. But like I say, 100,000 views. Like they only give you 10 rand. You like 1 million views only give you 1,000. You're like, how? Of 1 million views? That means I need to get 20 million views for me to see some real money. And that's why the likes of DJ Smooth, who are pioneering also this podcasting space, will take a job back at SABC. Because you understand that also the SABC there, you are guaranteed that there will be income, and you are guaranteed that there will be ears, you're guaranteed that there will be eyes. So we are not there yet. And let's stop fooling people and, acting big in a small town. No, internet is not yet there in South Africa. We are on our way there, but we are not yet there.
And you are not just talking from assumptions.
No, yes, I was revolting against the system. Where's the beef.co.za? Yeah. We had this major plan. Sure. Major plan. We did interviews. We did, there were reviews, CD reviews, but I realized, no. And then I went the TV route. 2 months later, we got our first TV gig with Gau TV. Yeah. And I tell you, even the internet that we had started getting more traffic because we were on TV. And that's where you see where the eyes are. Yes. Yeah. That's where the eyes are. So you can use the very same eyes to drive traffic back into... I mean, look at even McG. He got into a collaboration with Channel O. Stay Clinical with his podcast. So people would watch Channel O, and the next day they would see the full podcast, maybe uncensored. Those are ways you can use traditional media, also new media as well. But thinking, when are you going to go modern media fair? You're gonna, my brother, the struggle is real. The struggle is real. You'll be depressed, and whatever. No, depression is like a buzzword. Oh, I'm so depressed. I'm so
Yeah, so you can see I'm using a beginner's camera here, Canon 4000D. Yeah. Like it's beginners. You can't even put an external microphone on this thing. Yeah. You can't even listen back to what you have recorded. You have to actually put it
in the computer.
What was your first camera?
It was a Canon 700D. Sure. That's why I asked you. When you said, what is that? A Canon 700D. Yeah, our first camera was a Canon 700D. Sure. Yeah, and we started with one camera, and we went out there. We got the interviews, and we went to events. We did the reviews. We even did our first documentary. Yeah, Ladies First, where we were doing women in South African hip hop. One camera.
So how did you get it? Because this one is a second hand. Hey, we hustled.
I think one of the guys in the company, Scooter, got us our first computer. Oh, actually, we had a second camera, Dome, because I was Dome. You know Dome, the legendary producer who did Utiningo Pro, all that stuff. He was actually part of Where's the Beef as well. He had a camera as well. So those were the two first cameras that we had. And then after that, I applied for a grant with NYDA. And that's what I would advise young people to do as well. NYDA has got a grant where they can fund you 50,000 of equipment. And then with that 50,000, got another camera, got a proper laptop, got a proper gun mic, got banners, got all that stuff, and we never looked back.
I know Besley will attest. Yeah. I think that's how he started his business as well. He got funding from NYDA.
Yes, so young people also need to look around, think out the box, and use these organizations such as the NYDA. Because that's why they were set up there. We come from previously disadvantaged backgrounds, where unfortunately we don't have mothers and fathers who can give us that 50,000 to go buy that equipment. Or even some of them don't even believe in this art and film space. So organizations such as NYDA, I would suggest that you start there.
So That is great advice. I think also the other thing that borders around laziness is not using your phone to check on the internet the things that can benefit you, how you can get funding, how to apply for funding, or how to write an email, how to write a proposal. These young kids are not doing it. They're instead watching porn and watching other content that is useless the whole day.
and being consumed by social media, you know, and watching people live lives that are made up, you know what I mean? Whereas that phone in your pocket is actually a tool. If you use it right, you can get ahead. Even filmmakers, I tell them that you might not have NYDA to fund you that 50,000. You might not have a friend who has a camera, but if you've got a phone and it can shoot video, you start. Because I know movies that were done using phones. So
music videos
using phones. So what's stopping you if you've got that idea and this idea, it needs to happen? You start, my brother. Slicker Online started Slicker Online with his phone. Today, he's got one of the biggest agencies out there, you know, Slicker on Live, and he started with a phone. So whatever tool you have, and here's your tool you have in your pocket right now. Stop watching WhatsApp statuses and getting on Instagram and seeing these slay queens and all that stuff. No, my brother. Research, write scripts, plan. And then once you've done planning, go out there and start shooting interviews using your phone.
Unfortunately, man, our interview has to be cut short because, you know, with podcasting, you talk forever. Right? And you have a workshop that you need to conduct and you need to set up. But anyway, man, I think... we might have another time again to talk about the other stuff. And you know, like people like sensational stuff, you know, so we're talking about beef and all of these things. But it was about the Horror Film Festival. So they must not say we ignored those questions. No, it was a structured interview.
I'm definitely down to chop it up about beef.
About beef.
I mean, I've got a company called Where's the Beef? And every time I mention the company name, eyebrows just rise like, where's the beef?
So, my brother, no, I think we are done, man. Ernest, my brother, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate your time and the willingness to share information and educate and empower young people. We need people like you to serve as an inspiration, a motivator, a mentor, so that we can see all these things, they are possible. You understand? And like I said, I'm privileged to have this moment with you so that I can also get some knowledge directly from the horse's mouth as well and ask the questions that I want.
You want to ask.
So, man, until we meet again, thank you for the time.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. And looking forward to watching, you know, your channel grow. I'm definitely going to subscribe.
Definitely. You must subscribe and a little subscribe. Re a leboga lena le lebeletseng go ba go fitlha mo mafelelong le bontšheng le bakgotsi ba lena ka go share o like mowe gore re bontšheng ka re go direga something o comment le go sa tsebe gore ka no reng o no re good episode, nice one, Jack Rams, and then it tla bontšha gore ya re a bereka wa bona. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Until we meet again on the next episode on Jack Rams Online Mega Artist Media, we are out.
Peace.
Danko.